Good morning and welcome to Santos on Sports alongside Chris Santos. I am Paul Santos. We're happy to be brought to you by Scotty's Pub, located at 202 Pleasant Street in Fall River. Citywide glass with 3 locations to serve you at 425 State Road in Dartmouth, with additional locations in Fall River and Taunton. And Lakeville Athletic Club, 325 Bedford Street in Lakeville, where you can enjoy tennis and pickleball, just to name a couple. Thank you so much for supporting Santos on Sports. Oh my God, we have so much to talk about today. Boston Celtics last night, Chris. Oh my God, I'm watching this game, and we're thinking about, hey, maybe they can bring the Larry Bird Trophy out for the very first time and present it right there on the parquet floor. And how like cool would that be? And this would be great. And then the inconsistent Celtics, once again, inconsistency. Who are these guys? Like one day they're great, the next day they're terrible in a game like this. Right? I mean, I just don't understand it. And this whole thing where, they only come through when their backs are against the wall, right? Well, you can get away with that against the Bucks team that didn't have their second best player in Middleton. You can probably get away with it against the Miami team who's not going to get 47 points out of Butler every night. But if you do make it to the next round, you're not going to get away with it against Golden State. So you got to knock this stuff off. When you have them by the jugular, when you have the knee on the neck, you got to finish them off. Oh, my God, finish them off. Why? They shouldn't even be a Game 7. I think they will win Game 7. But the point is, there shouldn't even be a Game 7. You got to finish them off when you have them down. So what's wrong with this team? This is a flaw that they have, right? A flaw that they really need to correct.
No doubt about it. It is something that the Celtics have done most of the season that they need to figure out and fix. And hopefully they can win in Game 7 to make it to the finals. But, Paul, this is Game 6 at your house. I mean, if that's not enough inspiration, the great teams, the great championships, you defend your home, you defend the title of being Eastern champions and at your house to move on to the finals. They did not do it. Now, you have been on it all season long. I've been defending Tatum and Brown. Don't break them up. Let them play. Let it go. You've been against it at times. I am not a happy camper with what happened last night with both Tatum and Brown. When you have an opportunity, as you said, to take it by the throat and the jugular, you need the great ones to step up. Now, the media is going to say he had 30 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 point. 1 point in the fourth quarter for Tatum. One shot in the fourth quarter. He did have some free throws, got to the line twice, made some points. That is unacceptable. Unacceptable. Brown missing free throws, turnovers galore, which is, again, unacceptable. At your house. That's the key, Paul. Very, very poor performance by the Boston Celtics to take this one, get to the finals, and see what happens when you have all this rest until Thursday when the final starts. Very, very disappointing loss by the Boston Celtics. No doubt about it.
Well, we'd like to thank Charlie Perry for watching this morning. He says that Jaylen Brown was the biggest disappointment, and I think there's some truth to that because, hey, one thing Tatum did make his foul shots, and Jaylen Brown had made his foul shots up until that big point in the game where he really needed those foul shots. And, I put the game on. I was watching it in another room, and my wife was watching a movie or something. And then she said, hey, if it's still on, come back and see the end. So I come into the room, and, she's watching it. She's rooting for Jaylen Brown, and she's pulling everybody. And she looks at me and she goes, did he just miss both of those foul shots? I said, yes, he did. Yes, he did. He missed those foul shots. And you can point to 100 other things too. You know what I mean? But God, that was, again, are we like seeing a team tense up when the pressure is on?
Well, there looked like some tense opportunities when they had the ball on the inside. Williams' arms looked a little short a couple of times. Robert, that is. Unfortunately, Grant did not have a good game at all. Horford didn't play well, but they got contributions from White. So if you're getting contributions for him, now where is your 2 superstars? This is the whole key, Paul, right here. Fourth quarter, Jimmy Butler, superstar, stepped up for his team, got 47, and did what he was supposed to do. Where is Tatum? And where is Brown to get the job done? I take this loss on the shoulders of those two players. It's as simple as that. They need to get the job done. Now, fans are going to sit there and say, hey, it was some ticky-tacky calls, some ticky-tacky fouls. I get all that. Flopping going on all over the place. Lowry was holding arms as much as he could, trying to stay. That works both ways. Udoka's pet peeve, stop arguing with the refs. That's why I'm here. I'll do it. And that happened. You saw Smart with it. You saw Brown and Tatum with it. You saw Williams running all over the place with it, as much as the Heat did as well. So you play the game. That's how the game goes. If you're doing it the way you're supposed to, those fouls will work in your favor. Now, of course, the commentators were saying, well, look how many times the Celtics got to the foul line compared to Miami in the free throw department. Then it started to turn and catch up, and you got flops, you got blocks, you got offensive fouls. There's a lot of ways those things can turn. The key is the two stars did not step up, and I've been on their back all year. I've been for them. I still think they're great. They just did not get the job done. Simple, plain, easy. Put it on Tatum and Brown.
Thank you very much for your comments so far. Don Andrews says the Celtics thought Miami was going to lay down, but they got a rude awakening. Mm-hmm. Don Silva says letting up too many offensive rebounds, too many second and third tries, not consistent as a team.
Yep.
Charlie Perry again makes a further comment. Turnovers was the key all series.
Yep.
This series should have been over last week. Well, 7 turnovers for Tatum, 4 turnovers for Brown, 11 turnovers from your two top stars. And Don Andrews further comments, it seems when Horford and Grant Williams don't play well, the Celtics lose most nights. So, yeah, Horford and the bench. Horford 3 points, Grant Williams 2, Pritchard none. Smart had an off night, so we'll get to that in a few minutes. By the way, 774-762-6234, and we do have a caller, so let's go to that right now if we could. Good morning. You are on Santos on Sports.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
How you doing? You sound a little down this morning.
He sounds as frustrated as we do.
I mean, I don't think anything would top this. Listen, this hurt more than the AFC Championship game back in 2015, and that's saying something. Oh, but boy, this is like the first time I had confidence in this team this entire series. We finally decided to get our heads out of our butts. Win one in Miami, we've taken control of the series. Come back, I thought we had this. I thought we had this, but I should have known. That Jimmy Butler comes back to life. And I said this, I was texting my uncle throughout the entire game. Yeah, we're not going to win this one because we're just making Jimmy Butler look like Michael Jordan here. It's ridiculous. And I don't know if you noticed this too, but good old Time Lord, my favorite player on this team, he doesn't seem to have been putting in half as much effort as he did in previous games. At least not in the first half. I feel like they all stepped up, and we had them on the ropes for a little bit. We just wasted the game of Derek Weiss. Excuse me, Mom. Stop. I lost sleep over this. You can tell I'm tired. Derek White had the game of his life, helped us take the lead, and we just couldn't keep our foot on the gas. So I don't know if any confidence in this team just went completely out the window after last night. That was ridiculous.
And once again, a very, very slow start for the Boston Celtics, which is something I think when you are home, you want to get the crowd involved. You want to get them excited. You want to start scoring early. When the Miami Heat took the early lead, every time the Celtics came back and cut it close or tied it, here comes the three-pointer. Strauss was hitting three-pointers. He was looking like Ray Allen out there. And every time the Celtics got close, a big three would go from 3 points up to quickly 6, up to 9 that fast to get the Celtics trailing once again. So whether it was some quick turnovers, which the Celtics have been doing all this series, looks like Jaylen Brown, every time he drives to the basket, can't hold on to the ball. Always losing it, always getting picked from, slapped at, or he makes a bad pass. You have to make the smart decisions. Horford made a couple of bad ones as well. Now, you got contributions from White, which is great. So White picked up the balance of Horford, and he picked up the balance of Grant Williams. But I still say it's on Brown and Tatum's shoulders to win that game last night, and the two of them didn't do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, talk about Jaylen Brown just these past couple of games. It's like David Pastrnak getting it into a freaking defensive zone. Every single time he drives the basket, it looks like he's bouncing off his knee. He just can't hold on to the ball.
Yep.
Same thing with Tatum. He was bad in this game too. And literally no one could guard but Jimmy Butler this night. Smart couldn't guard him. Jaylen Brown couldn't guard him. Jason Tatum couldn't guard him. Horford couldn't guard him. Like it was just one of those nights. He was making absolutely everything, and I'm kind of scared now that Butler's kind of found his groove again, and now we're going back to Miami. This is exactly what I didn't want to risk.
Well, you talk about how, and Chris has talked about it too, how Jimmy Butler is the best player on the team, and teams are defined by their best players. Best players have to step up and do something when you need it the most. Big Papi during the Red Sox run, or you use a whole bunch of different examples, Tom Brady, and on it goes, right? The best players have to do their best at the time that it's needed the most. And Jimmy Butler did that. But saying that, Jimmy Butler was hitting a lot of shots that, you're not going to hit most nights. I mean, he was throwing stuff up there. He threw one up there at there was 1 second left on the shot clock, and he's like throwing up basically a step back three in the corner. It looked like a Hail Mary. The thing went up in the air and swished in the air. And there were times where, hey, there were breakdowns defensively. Coach Udoka brought that up during his post-game press conference. We got to play better defensively. As you pointed out, there were breakdowns that, were absolutely inexcusable. Turnovers were inexcusable. But is Jimmy Butler going to be able to go out there and do the same thing again, where he's taking all these shots that are going in from just about everywhere? That was the best game of his career in the playoffs. Best game of his career. So to be able to duplicate again the second time, I mean, that's the thing that brings me a little bit of confidence. I don't think Chrissy's going to be able to do that 2 games in a row.
Well, again, even with Giannis, you can give up somebody in the 40s and still win the game comfortably because you slowed everybody else down. But I thought when Butler started to get hot, it inspired everybody else. And Tucker was making shots from the baseline. Strauss is making bombs that could be like 5-pointers instead of 3-pointers. And some of the other players like Lowry and a few more really jumping on the bandwagon because they knew they had Butler in their back pocket, even if they were missing, that he was picking up the pieces. But as the caller said, and even you alluded to, Paul, second and third chances. Even when they talk to Udoka, we have to limit one shot. He makes it great. He doesn't. It's our ball. We go the other way. Turnovers, limit that. One time we go the other way. If you continue to do those 2 things, that's what gives them an opportunity to say, hey, the Celtics don't want it. Okay, let's take it from them. And Miami did.
Absolutely. All right, so Ryan, your confidence isn't too high in Game 7 here. Why can't they do what they did to, Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks?
I don't know. I just feel like this is a team that's finally found their groove in shot making. Like against the Bucks, without Chris Middleton, I don't think that they're quite as capable of making shots as this Miami Heat team. And you had mentioned before, Jimmy Butler just chucking some stuff up there and making him. It seems that Max Strus has found his groove too, because he did something exactly like that. I just think between Kyle Lowry, who's had some playoff experience, Max Strus, who seems to have gone off now, obviously Jimmy Butler, I just think that they have more guys capable of scoring. They might not score like that every night per se, but we've seen them capable of doing that. I just think that they have better perimeter shooters, but we just can't allow Jimmy Butler to go for 40 plus again. My confidence is low. That was a heart wrencher.
Right. Yeah, and it was funny because ESPN showed the game before the stats of Butler and the other 3 players and how poor their shooting performance was, and then what they did last night. So what scares you, Paul, is a very poor performance last time they played in Miami. Will they duplicate that? That's what scares me the most, because I don't think they will play that bad as they did in Miami in Game 5. That's what makes you nervous.
Well, yeah, because, Miami, they've got some experienced players over there too, not just Butler. Butler is kind of like the crux of the team. But, now they've got reinvigorated. The game is still there. It's still Game 7. The chips are all on the table. Again, you just can't, continue to do this thing where you don't play until your backs are against the wall, because sooner or later, that's going to fail. I think they'll win it. I do. I think they got too many guys there. I think they're deeper than Miami. I think they're better than Miami. The problem I have, though, is that, you and I talk about that it thing. I love to talk about this it thing.
Mhm.
They're like, oh, Santos, what's he talking about, this it thing? Well, that the chips are on the table. Everything's on the line. You're going to the NBA Finals. You blew a chance a game before. That seems to be the time where they raise up and do it. But can they do it every time like that? That's the thing that worries me. What do you think, Ryan?
I was just about to say that. You took the words right out of my mouth. If we can somehow do this to get past Miami, great. What's gonna happen when you're pretty much going up against if you go up pretty much against like pretty much a reinvigorated dynasty in Golden State? You can't constantly play with your backs against the wall against this team. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are too good. They're too experienced. They've won too many championships. They have more experience than anyone in these playoffs, especially the Celtics team. You can't play like that. You need to if we can get past the Heat tomorrow, we have to actually play. We have to actually play. We can't be complaining to the officials all the time. We can't keep getting down 10 plus points and expect to come back every single. We can't do that. We have to keep our foot on the gas and get ahead. It's as simple as that.
All right, Ryan. Well, we really, really appreciate the calls. We always do. Always a good call, and we hope to talk to you again. And hopefully, the Celtics will somehow make it to the finals.
Hopefully. I'll talk to you later, Paul.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. 774-762-6234. Our friend there, Mr. Guarantee. I was texting him last night. And Mark Sylvia from Chicago, and I told him, I said, I'm going to guarantee a win in Game 7. And he said, no, don't do that. I'm like, yeah, I guess not. And he typed in a moment ago, I've said enough already. Well, no, you haven't. Give us a call. Let us know what you think watching the game from the Windy City. And I got to talk to you a little bit, Chris, about the officiating. You don't want to be that guy that complains about the officials, blah, blah, blah. But I'm talking about the officials bad against both teams all night. You know what I mean? All night long, the teams were shaky. The officials were shaky to both teams. Little ticky-tack calls where the guy reaches in and rubs. You see the replay and you see the hand like just brush up against the guy's chest, which didn't slow him down at all. Can't be calling all that ticky-tack crap, right?
Well, there's different officials that do different things. Some guys let them play. Some guys call it tight. Some guys watch what the player does. If you remember, Paul, that the foul that you just showed, when it barely touched him here, he flops and falls on the ground after he lands there. So the official thinks, oh, it must have been a heavy foul, and they blow the whistle from there. You got some guys who are close to the play that don't make the call, and the call comes from the opposite side. And that happened a couple of times too. But, you got some veterans in there like Lowry, knows how to tie you up. Knows how to get under your skin, knows how to, draw fouls. And that's what good ones do. So it works for you. It works against you. Listen, Paul, this Miami team, let's not forget, is a good defensive team. They have been all year long. So it's not like they're playing a team that just wants to go up and down the court and score at will, kind of like what Golden State likes to do. Not much of a defensive team. They try to outscore you. But Miami is a pretty good defensive team, and their hands are on you all the time, which causes and creates turnovers. And they've been doing it very well, and the Celtics have fallen into that trap and have committed tons of turnovers.
All right, let's go to Dylan in Boston. You are next on Santos on Sports.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, you.
Good. Hey, just something I noticed last night. I was at the game, of course, and before the game when the Celtics, they normally run onto the court kind of, all together before the players are introduced. They'll say, hey, now introducing the Boston Celtics, and they all run out onto the court from the locker room. Found it interesting last night that everybody ran out except Tatum and Smart, who came out separately, individually after that to each of their own big ovations. So like the whole team ran out, they're all dribbling, shooting baskets, and then all of a sudden they the Jumbotron cuts to a shot of Smart leaving the locker room and running out to the floor. Everyone goes crazy. And then about 2 minutes later, Tatum does the same thing. And then the time clock goes down. So now the little warm-up period's over. And now they go into the introductions, and they're kind of behind the eight ball. Smart goes over to the officials and is checking out the balls. Jimmy Butler had already been standing there for like 3 minutes waiting for him. Tatum now was running out. He's trying to – it's just – I don't know. It was like some sort of big show that I've worked a lot of games this year. I didn't really notice that. So it just, I don't know. I didn't like it. I noticed it right away. It was kind of weird. So I don't know, something to keep an eye on.
So do you think that, a couple of the guys there wanted to have, the hero spotlight on them a little bit? You're thinking, hey, we're going to win tonight. So maybe I'll have this big introduction separately, and this other guy wants his big introduction separately. And, going away from that whole thing where, remember the Patriots, the first time they got introduced as a team in that Super Bowl, and now everybody does that. So do you think that there's something there, or at least obviously you're speculating, but there's something that didn't sit right with you about seeing that?
Yeah, I I hadn't seen it all year. So
yeah,
so I did a lot of games this year, and I was like, what is this now? It's like some kind of show. Here we go. And then they got off to kind of a tough start there at the beginning, on top of that. So I don't know. I might be making too much of a big deal about it. These guys are egomaniacs anyway. So I don't know. Just something I noticed and figured I'd mention it. But there you go. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right, that's interesting. Dylan works as an usher up in Boston at many of the Celtics and Bruins games, so he's there all the time before the game and all that. So what do you think about that? I mean, that was actually an excellent call because, it's bringing up something that nobody would notice. We wouldn't notice it watching it on national television. But, what was that all about? Like, if you're getting introduced as a team all year and now you want to get introduced separately, I mean, those things are all orchestrated. So there was no accident to whatever they did. I mean, were they reading their own press clippings, Chris? Could that be?
Well, I think you can look at it from Dylan makes a good point, but I think you can also look at it from the opposite way. You can look at it as, remember, Tatum's been bothered by a stinger in that left shoulder. I know Smart's been bothered by his foot and all that. Maybe they were getting some last-minute treatment. I mean, I don't know on that point. That's a possibility there too. I know you alluded to the Patriots. Every time they ran out, Tom Brady right in front runs all the way down the sideline and gives that big fist to the crowd and pump them all up too. So, yeah, it would be nice to see Tatum and Brown being like the first ones out to generate the crowd and get them going too. So I think you can look at it from both ways. So not really sure if that had anything to do with it. But they have been banged up and injured in some ways. So it's possible from that perspective. But Dylan makes a good point, and to say, let's put the camaraderie as a team. Let's come out together as a team. And it was funny because ESPN showed when the Celtics came running out from the locker room, and I didn't notice Smart and Tatum when they showed the team running out. We did see Robert Williams and Pritchard and a few more. So I didn't know if they caught the group late. And as he said, they came out afterwards. So it is an interesting perspective, but I'm not going to look too deep into that. I don't think it has much to do with that. I'd be surprised, Paul.
I got to tell you.
Game 6 at home, really worrying about that. I don't know. I find that one tough, but it's possible.
Well, here's the thing, right? These guys are 24 years old.
Yeah.
They're millionaires on top of millionaires on top of millionaires. They're going to be billionaires pretty soon. They've had people kissing their feet for so long. They love the adulation. They love the ego stroking, right? I have to tell you, I don't buy it that, somebody was getting extra treatment.
Mm-hmm.
You can get extra treatment. You got all day to get extra treatment,
Sure.
right? So you come out with your team. I'm suspicious. I'm suspicious of this. You get your rear end out there with the rest of the team. Don't go into the put the extra spotlight on me. We've been talking about this all year. I'm rooting for the Celtics. I know it sounds like I might not be, but there are times where they don't seem that likable to me. You know what I mean? Cut the nonsense. I understand. I can't imagine myself, Chris. We've talked about this before. I can't imagine myself in my early 20s with millions and millions of dollars and all kinds of adulation. I would probably not be very likable. I'd probably go off the deep end. You know what I mean? So it's very tough for that to happen. And I see Tatum in the press conference. I like him. I think he's trying his best. I think he wants to win. I think he's disappointed that they didn't win, but I still don't see that clutch thing. But getting back to the original point, I do find it suspicious that, Marcus Smart, who's the senior guy in this group, and Tatum, who wants to be the LeBron James of the team, are coming out separately. I'm suspicious. I have no evidence. I'm suspicious.
I don't want Dylan to get fired or anything, but
No.
listen, if he can slide over a couple of, sections and just maybe, just tap Tatum on the side and say, hey, pal, you were a little late last game. What's going on?
Hey, you're working balcony 300.
Maybe he can slide down to the front a little bit and maybe a little tap. Hey, Tatum, how come you're a little late the other day? No, don't do that, Dylan. Don't do that. We don't want any problems over there. But no. Again, I don't know if he was maybe he was talking with Udoka. Maybe they were looking for something. I have absolutely no idea. You warm up so much before the game. So I don't think it had anything to do with, warming up. Them guys are prepared. They're shooting around for hours and things like that. So, you would think they would come out as a group, as much as, Marchand wants to be the last one off the ice. He's got superstitions like that. So there's a lot of ways, very, very difficult to tell. So,
Don Silva further commented it's exactly what Charlie Perry said. The turnovers really killed him. As we said, 7 by Tatum, 4 by Brown. That's 11 by your top two guys.
Yes.
And Don Andrews said the Celtics defense didn't seem to be as ferocious and determined as games in the past. 80 points allowed to 111 the next game. Well, after the game, Scalabrini was pointing that out, that, the team that comes out more energetic seems to be the team that takes control of the game. The Celtics seem to be, according to Scalabrini, they seem to be content on walking the ball up a lot of times, Now, you can say, well, that, hey, energy and how what play you decide to run and all that, that might not jump out at you. But what about that? The Celtics, they didn't seem to have that ferociousness that Don Andrews says in the comment.
Yeah, and I'll comment on Don Andrews there because if you recall, when you get ticky-tack fouls, now Williams has 3, Horford has 3. Now you can't be as aggressive because you don't want to foul out of the game. So it makes it tough to be ferocious on defense. And guys are flopping and guys are holding and guys are grabbing. And the next thing you know, you got 2 quick ones and Horford had to sit. Then Williams got 2 and then he had to sit. So these guys don't want to get out of the game. They want to stay in, but they can't do how they want to do because, unfortunately, the officials are calling it tonight. And so they got to be extra careful. And sometimes that happens, and that's part of the game. And that's why you have guys who sub in, sub out, and you have bench players, and you find a way to get your starters back in when you need to, and you regroup on the bench. And so it makes it tough. And when you get pick and rolls, you get offensive fouls. How many times did we see that last night as well? So it gets very difficult. And then that puts in the back of your mind, gee, are they going to call a foul on me again? And they don't want to foul out.
Right, so it changes the way you play. No question about that. 774-762-6234. Give us a call this morning and vent with Chris Santos and I. Of course, there'll be a 7th game tomorrow night, so that'll be, I guess, fun to watch the 7th game, depending on how it goes. But, I'm looking at some of the scores here. Butler, 47. Next guy after that is Lowry with 18, and then Strauss with 13, right? Tatum, 30, White, 22, Brown, 20. Obviously, Smart didn't have a good game, Horford and stuff like that. But I'm looking down the thing here, right? Looking down the score sheet. I don't know. I know Butler dug deep. I know he put the team on his back. I know he played probably the game of his career, the game of his life, right? Last night. I mean, if the Celtics just, make a couple of adjustments here and there, is he really capable of playing like that? And not just playing like that. I'm sure he's going to come out and try his best. But, he hit those first threes right at the beginning, 3 threes right at the beginning, which he doesn't normally do. Off-balance threes when the shot clock is winding down. We're talking about how the Celtics rallied back, and every time they got close, either Lowry would hit a shot that, you would be unlikely to hit. Strauss would hit like a low percentage shot. Butler would hit a low percentage shot. You can't win like that every night either. You know what I mean? That's why I think unless the Celtics really freeze up and can't seize the moment, unless that happens, I don't think Miami has what it takes to win that game because you can't win like that every night, taking all these, off-balance 3-point shots when the shot clock's about to wind down.
No, you can't. But can he do it again and score 47? Sure he can. That's not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about who's going to score for Boston in the fourth quarter when it comes down to it, and where is Tatum and where is Brown, as they should have been last night in that fourth quarter, to take over the game for the Boston Celtics, win at home, and should be playing in the finals starting Thursday. That's what concerns me more. Can Jimmy Butler do it? Superstar, sure. Why can't Tatum and Brown do the same thing, especially when you got guys that I don't think are great defensive players? I think Strauss was on Brown a few times as well. That has to be changed. They have to come up, step up their game, and win it for the Boston Celtics, especially in Boston.
Well, Paul Coelho says, you tell him, Rusty, but I don't know who he's talking to, you or me. So when he says, you tell him, Rusty, you mean me or you mean Chris Santos?
Well, he means me, and he means me, and that's a whole other story we'll have to talk about someday,
right,
Paul.
Good. And then he also says it was too much early talk about the Celtics and Warriors. Yeah, I think we started to look a little bit past Miami. But hold that thought while we go to the Windy City.
Yes.
Hello, you are on Santos on Sports.
Gosh, I don't even know where to start here. I'm as frustrated as Ryan is. Hey, you know what, Paul? You talk about Miami in Game 7, and, hey, Butler can't do what he did last game. He's throwing up shots from all over the court. I'll tell you, you've heard the expression gamer. That guy's a gamer, and you can't underestimate heart. And what he did last night was he said, we aren't losing this game. He threw some shots in, there's no doubt. But look at what he did to his teammates. This guy Strauss, he's pumping his fist. His mouthpiece is coming out of his mouth. Tatum, one shot in the fourth quarter. I agree with you. I think they're going to win in Game 7. They got too much talent, and they're just better than Miami. But you squandered the opportunity. Game 6, they took the lead with 3 minutes left in the game, and you just disappeared. I can tell you, you look at Game 7, you're not going to get 22 points from White. Guarantee that. He scored over 20 once since he's been with the Celtics. So where is that other scoring going to come from? The other players got to feed off of your superstars. Tatum was passive in the fourth. Brown, I'm going to tell you, if he dribbles into a double team one more time and loses the ball, I'm going to throw something at my TV. I learned not to do that in the 8th grade. I just don't know, guys. It's frustrating.
Well, he's getting past the pick and roll, Mark, and he's going to the basket, and Miami is doing a good job of collapsing. And when they collapse, now they're getting away from the outside shooters. But that's forcing Brown now to make a decision. Do I go to the basket when I finish the first guy and now I get double teamed, or do I kick it out to the open man? Well, either way he's done it, he's been turning it over, whether it's a bad pass or whether he's just losing it when he goes in there. So you have to give Miami some credit in what they're doing defensively, but you got to control the ball when you have it in your possession, when you're that good of a player. Now, you're right with saying what you got from White. Now, White came through for Horford and Williams last night, who both of them did not have very good games. So usually you're getting some contribution from Horford and you're getting it from Williams. They didn't get it. White stepped up his game, contributed in that way. This falls specifically on Tatum and Brown. No doubt about it. You're right on it. One shot is unacceptable. They need to take over that game as much as Jimmy Butler did, as much as watching Larry Bird against Dominic Wilkins going one-on-one. You got to match what Jimmy did, and the Celtics didn't do it.
One shot. He had one shot in the fourth quarter. one shot. He's got an undrafted free agent covering him. Yep. The announcers kept saying, look, Tatum wants the ball. He wants to go. And he just couldn't do it. He couldn't do anything against Max Strauss. Now, I know the minute he took him to the basket, they always brought somebody over. Tucker, all these other guys. And they got hands everywhere.
Yep.
But then find the open teammate. Do something with it. It's not just the one shot. The one shot's critical. If he went 0 for 10, I'd go, hey, you know what? The shots weren't falling. One
Right.
shot.
Yep.
And then the passes, it's him, it's Brown, it's Tatum. I mean, Smart. They're just soft passes. These guys, the announcers keep saying Miami's got hands. They're anticipating pass. And they throw these little soft passes. Now, listen, I'm never one to blame the refs. I thought the refs were terrible. Horford getting 3 fouls in the first period. I think that threw him off the whole game, but he still played 30 minutes. And Williams was arguing with the refs. He had some bad calls, but Williams has got to play ball. He's a secondary player. Stop arguing with the refs and play ball.
Well, you talked about Horford. There was one. I mean, there were plenty of turnovers to talk about. We talked about the 9 by Tatum and 7 by Tatum and 4 by Brown. But I was just watching the little 10-minute version of the game that you can get online and just kind of going back through it again, just because I'm a glutton for punishment. And Horford had one in particular where he just lobbed a ball across, and Butler came out of nowhere. It almost looked like the secondary, of a really good, team that has a good cornerback or a good linebacker that read the play, and he just came across and picked that thing off and went down on a 2-on-1 and slammed it home. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what a horrible pass that was. That kind of stuff, unfortunately, we saw quite a bit last night.
Terrible. And you know what? Udoka's got to get on these guys for that. He says it to the media, well, too many turnovers and not enough rebound. Light a fire up these guys' asses. Pull them out of the game if they're not doing what Tatum. Maybe Tatum needed to come out with 10 minutes left in the fourth and say, listen, you're a superstar. Take over the game. Get back in there and kick their ass.
Well, before Chris comments, I just wanted to say, they asked Tatum about having only one shot in the fourth quarter in the post game. I mean, I stayed up. I love watching all that post game stuff. So I'll stay up to 1 o'clock in the morning if, the situation presents itself. And he's like, well, I don't want to force a shot when I'm double teamed. And I was trying to get the ball to this guy. And, if I force the shot and I don't get the shot, that's not good. So, but they were really, giving me a lot of attention. So I was trying to, make the right play. What do you think about that? Is there some credence to what he was trying to say?
Take over the game is all I will tell you. Take over the game. You're the superstar. You win this game, you go to the finals. It's 3 minutes left in the game. You're winning. Jimmy Butler took over the game. Jason Tatum, look across the court and say, I'm not going to let that guy beat me. Take over the game. That's all I don't care how. Take over the game.
All right. I was trying to defend your boy there, Chris.
It. You got me fired up, but that's
it. All right. Hey, thank you very much. Don't be a stranger. We'll talk to you again.
Right,
Thanks, Mark.
All right.
You gotta match him. Yep. You have to match him. If Tatum saw what Butler was doing, he has to match him. Now, if he's getting double teamed, that doesn't mean you have to take the shot, but you got to find the open man without turning it over, or you got to get to the basket, create a foul, so you go get some free throws. You have to find a way when you're that good to learn to match the other team's greatness, and that's what Butler was doing, and Tatum wasn't, or Brown. And just as much as well, too. Could have came in and stepped in and said, okay, they are double teaming Tatum. That means I'm going to get my single matchup. Let me get in there and do the job. Those two guys needed to take over the fourth quarter. They did not do it. Simple as that.
All right. Thanks to our viewers watching on New Bedford Guide, Fall River Reporter, New Bedford Live, and the Paul Santos Live Facebook page and YouTube channel. Got a couple of comments here. George Provenkel, watching on Fall River Reporter, says the Celtics should be eating some humble pie. Well, I think they are doing that this morning. Mm-hmm. And we got a couple of comments by Donna Obelinsky, who was also watching on Fall River Reporter. She says she has to agree with everything that we're saying. So thank you for that. But then she also says they have had slow starts, but come back after the first half, which I thought might happen again. It happened the game before. They had that slow start. They were behind at the half, and then they really rallied in the second half. She thought that might happen again, and so did I, quite frankly. And it did happen. They got to the top of the hill, but they just couldn't get over it. So, it did happen the last game, but not this game completely.
And the third quarter has been the quarter that has done it. So I thought going in, listen, they played a bad first half, and they were down a point. So I figured they'd go in, Udoka light the fire up, get them all pumped up, come out the second half, start on fire, take the lead, and have Miami chase you. Never happened. Never happened at all. And unfortunately for them, they let it get away from them at the end. And Miami and Jimmy Butler took over, and they went out and won the game and stole it in Boston, and now look to go home tomorrow night and finish it up. And Boston has to find a way to get off to a better start and then continue on and have Miami chase you.
Well, thank you very much for those who are making these great comments today. We really appreciate that. We love interacting with the audience.
Absolutely.
But if you want to call so we can hear your voices and we can hear you vent, please do so at 774-762-6234. And let's see, I don't remember now. Did I not put the number up on the screen? No, I didn't. So
no, the number's not up right now.
The number is not on the screen. So
No.
let's put that number right there,
There
baby.
it
That's
is.
all we're talking about. Call that number.
Yeah.
Donna in Fall River, give us a call. George, give us a call at that number. And Eric Gomes makes a kind of a humorous comment here on New Bedford Live. He says, Tatum and Brown play like stars, but then disappear like magicians.
Yeah. You know what? Again, it's their time to take over. It's their time to win at their house. It's their time to make it to the NBA championship, and they did not do it. So he's right. They did not show up in the fourth quarter when the game was on the line, and they needed to take over to win at home and move on against Golden State. So they fell apart. He's absolutely correct. And whether it was turnovers, officiating, didn't take the shots they wanted to, whatever it was, those two guys have to be the decision makers because those are your two superstars that get the job done. So whether you want to get Pritchard off the bench to play more and maybe make some big shots, they didn't do it. Whether Horford was in foul trouble and Williams in foul trouble, and even Robert not cleaning up the boards as he normally does a little bit more, giving second and third chances. You can put all these things together, Paul. It leads to a very difficult night for the Boston Celtics and on to a game 7. Simple as that.
Ryan Fast and Farious makes a further comment. He says, he forgot to mention this, if we can somehow pull out game 7, it'll actually be bittersweet just because of what happened last night. It feels like the team doesn't get it. Well, it's true because if you pull out game 7, and I still think I like their chances in game 7 for the reasons that we stated before, but you go into the Warriors and you start falling behind, figuring, well, we don't really have this sense of urgency just yet until we're down 2-1 or we're down 3-2 or something like that. They're going to blow that. That team's experienced. That team, has some great players there. I mean, you're not going to be able to pull that act, that magician act against a team like the Warriors.
Well, I don't want to go into the Lions' den if I don't have to. And unfortunately, they have to. And so they blew their chance last night. And now they got really difficulty ahead of them tomorrow. You're predicting that, they're going to win the game now. Of course, they've won on the road. They've won in Milwaukee when they needed to. They've won in Miami already. So, yeah, it's absolutely possible that they can do it. But why would you want to do it there after what just happened last night? That's what you're going to have to do. But, again, let's get this series over. Last night, now you got Saturday, you got Sunday, Sunday, all the way to Thursday to rest up and get ready for Golden State. And they let that fall out of the window. So now, if they can pull it out tomorrow, then they rest Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and get ready for Thursday. So hopefully they can. But it was there for the taking, and it should have been last night, and they blew their chance.
The thing that worries me, too, is if they do win game 7, right? Let's say they win game 7. If they lose game 7, okay, there's a whole other week of venting that we're going to have. But let's say they pull off game 7. Okay, now you go into the Warriors series. You saw what happened when the Bucks series went 7 when it really didn't have to. They had to turn around and pump it right up for game 1 in the next round. And the game 1, they stunk. They couldn't crank it up for game 1. So now let's say they win this game. I mean, it's all the way to Thursday, so it's not like they got to play the next night.
Right.
But, they got to fly from New England all the way down to Florida, not that far, but they still got to fly down to Miami. Then they got to come back to Boston, presumably, and then get ready to fly cross country to go all the way across to San Francisco and play on the floor of the Golden State Warriors. I think they'll win game 7. I do. But then I think they'll get blown out in game 1 against the Warriors because that's been the MO. They win the game that they have to win, game 7, and then they go into the next one and they fall behind. But you can't fall behind against the Warriors. Warriors don't have anybody really injured there. You know what I mean? Like again, these other teams have had some injuries, and the Celtics, haven't as much. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't fall behind against the damn Warriors.
Unfortunately, Paul, I'm not even going to comment on that. I don't care right now about that. I care about Game 7 in Miami.
Right.
That's all you need to worry about right now. I'll worry about Golden State once they win
You're
in
right.
Miami. Then I'll talk about it all you want. But right now, the focus is Game 7. Nothing else. I don't care when you get to Miami, what time you got to run out together one at a time. I don't care what you do. Find a way to put it together and get yourself Game 7 and win that game.
I'm falling into the same trap. I'm already looking at the next series.
Stop looking ahead, Paul.
I'm looking at the next series. It's supposed to be one game at a time, for God's sake. What are we doing?
Game 7. You could have looked ahead. You should be looking ahead, and we're not. So worry about Game 7 right now and what they need to do defensively. 111 points. Still think that's a lot of points to give up to Miami. Even though, Butler did what he did. Got to find a way to get more guys on him, shut him down a little bit, find some more scoring. They talked about letting Jimmy shoot from the outside. Well, he was shooting from the outside, and he was making them. And then when he went inside, he did some moves in there too, and found the open man when he ended up getting double on the inside, and they executed, and they did what they wanted to. So the defense has to step up, and hopefully they can, as they did down in Miami before. So one game at a time, Paul. Don't rush it.
All right. Well, I'm sorry to do this, but this does kind of tie into the potential of an NBA final. But Mark Sylvia says, even if they win, even if they win, okay. Golden State has not lost a game at home. Okay, so now he's referring back to this series and the Celtics in general. You need to defend your home court. They've lost 4 home games already. They need that urgency at home. And that Game 5 against the Bucks, it's amazing that they bounce back from that. That's why I have confidence in this Game 7. They do seem to come back from the dead all the time, But the home court thing, right? I don't understand. The home court, used to be a big thing. It seems like, teams, including the Celtics, they haven't successfully defended the play on the parquet. Why not? What's going on with that?
Well, it's a big thing for Golden State since they haven't lost at home, and it was for some other teams. So the Celtics, feel like they can win on the road, which is great. But, like you said, a good championship teams defend the house, and especially in Game 6, when you've seen what Celtics teams have done in the past, from Bird, Mikhail Parrish to Garnett, Pierce, and Allen, how they've defended their home court and turf and say, hey, you want to come into our place, we're going to take it to you. And whether they went ferocious or they were soft or they thought, hey, maybe Miami's going to kind of give up a little bit. And their head coach said, hey, I'm relying on my team to shake things up here tonight, get back to Miami Heat basketball. I have total confidence in Jimmy Butler and my team. And he let them go out there, and they did what they needed to do. So now Boston has to come back and say, hey, we can win on the road. Now we have to do what we need to do. But, yeah, you have to win, Paul, at your place. There's no doubt about it. With the fan support, and the Celtics fans were there. They were all over it. They just, fourth quarter, what should have been there was not there for them.
You talk about Brown and Tatum a lot, and that's good to do that because they are the stars. They are the ones that have to take over in the big moment. You think of Pedro Martinez and Schilling, when the Red Sox were coming back against the Yankees, the famous quote there, don't let us win tonight, Game 4, because in Game 5 we get Pedro, in Game 6 we get Schilling, in Game 7 anything can happen, right? So you have kind of let them off the mat a little bit here. So that's a whole thing that we have talked about quite a bit. But getting back to Brown and Tatum, right? Okay, Brown and Tatum. Okay, what happened to Marcus Smart last night? Marcus Smart, man, he was pretty bad in the fourth quarter and the second half. And then he started chucking up those bricks, those ISO bricks a few times. And I was thinking to myself, hey, this is the Chris Santos ISO ball thing right there. I'm thinking, here we go with the hero ISO ball. Chris Santos must be like jumping out of the chair over at his man cave there.
Fourth quarter, I want Tatum and Brown with the ball. Whether it's Smart that's giving it to him, or whether Tatum and Brown get doubled and they get it to Smart and he makes the right decision, I'm fine with that. I'm not fine with letting the clock go down to 3-2, and I got smart chucking it up. Yeah, that's not Celtic basketball. That's not what I want, and I'm sure that's not what the fans want as well. That needs to change absolutely. You get open looks. That's different. I understand it. If you remember, he made an open look three. Tucker came late, hit him. Got a 4-point play out of it. That was a big point. I understand that one because he was open, Paul. That was the difference. He was open and they found him compared to, I got it. Take my time, wait. Shot comes down and then chucks it up. No, that's not what I want to see out of Marcus Smart. So, yeah, he needs to obviously improve and give Butler a lot of credit because Defensive Player of the Year was on him at times, and he scored against the Defensive Player of the Year and played very well. And it didn't matter if it was Smart or Tatum or Brown, whoever else was on him. He showed up when they needed it. He carried them on their back, and he led them to a Game 7. So it's what he wanted to do. That's what Miami needed, and he got it done. Simple as that.
774-762-6234. Got about 10 minutes to go if you want to get in and chat with Chris and I. We really enjoy your calls and comments, so keep those coming, especially on a day like this when we're venting. And I can tell Chris is irritated because every time I bring up Marcus Smart, like I'll text Chris and I'll say, hey, did you see that play by Marcus Smart there? And then he goes, Defensive Player of the Year. Then I say, hey, did you see Smart do this? Defensive Player of the Year.
he kills me. You know, even our sponsors. I mean, I talked to Scotty Lopes, the owner of Scotty's Pub, the owner of Citywide Glass. I speak to Rich Anthony in the Lakeville Racket Club. You know, them guys will text me when the Celtics are winning and say, wow, what a performance and all that. And when it's bad, I get the text, they suck. You know, it's just like everybody else. And they feel it. And you know, they'll let me have it when it goes bad compared to when it goes good. And, you know, again, that's media hype. That's Celtics fans hype. That's what it's all about. And why you play the game and why the great ones show up when they need to. And I just think that it falls all on Tatum and Brown last night. End the story. Simple as that. It's those two guys that needed to win for the Boston Celtics, and it wasn't there.
Well, now looking ahead to Game 7, Don Andrews watching on Paul Santos Live comments, the Celtics need to walk into Miami with a swagger like Ralph Furley had when he walked into the Regal Beagle. All right, so you gotta know what was the name of that show that Ritter was
Three's
on
Company.
There? Three's Company, yeah. We have to go back to Three's Company to get that.
Yeah. As long as they walk in with the green and white and not the colorful outfits that Ralph Furley used to walk in with. And he had the plaid outfits and everything else. So they need to get off to a good start. They need to show the Miami fans and the Miami Heat team that they are there to win this ball game. They need to be better on defense, absolutely. And they need to obviously not turn the ball over and limit Miami to one shot. I think those are two big keys, Paul. The turnovers by the offense, and then when they have an opportunity, you limit one shot. Williams, Horford, get those rebounds. Do not let the other guys come back, get it, start all over again, or get a quick, easy 2 on second and third chances. Those are two big ones for me. And then, of course, the two big guys needing to be what they are to win a ball game.
All right, let's go back to the phones. Hello, you are next on Santos on Sports.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hi.
Good morning.
Between the Red Sox blowing it from having an 8-2 lead to switching back to go to the Celtics, man, I ended up having a soup last night toward the end of the night instead of having a good roast beef soup because my stomach was so upset.
Wait a minute, so you had to have a soup to settle your stomach down?
Yeah! I couldn't believe it. I was looking forward to a nice roast beef soup, and I was like, But it's all about the defense wasn't there. They were not communicating with each other. And as you just said a few minutes ago, the Heat did it. They showed up. They played their style of game, and they had their will on them, basically. And this roller coaster ride, I think, is over. I don't think mentally they can take it anymore. They're beat up.
That's very interesting. Again, anything can happen in a Game 7.
Of course.
I think the Celtics will show up to win the game. It's going to be difficult, but they have one on the road. I think they can win there. Personally, myself, with my 3 TVs, I did have both games on. I even had the hockey game on. So when the Celtics weren't looking good, go watch the Orioles for a while. So I got my orange on today as the Orioles came back from being
Oh, yeah,
down.
that's right. I forgot.
Happy to watch that. A nice little win. Double header today. Let's see what happens.
Always a pleasure, gentlemen. Have a great weekend.
All right.
Hey,
Thank
you
you very
too.
much. All right. So there's a caller who isn't looking at it the way I am. He's
Yeah.
looking at it like this. Okay, well, the Buck
Go.
series, they blew game 5 in a terrible fashion.
Yeah.
And somehow they dug deep and said, okay, now let's really play. And we win game 6 and game 7. The caller is saying, hey, that MO, that's going to run out this time in game 7.
Because they're banged up and it's over, according to him. So he doesn't think they have it. And again, I don't know if it's, injury wise. I don't know if it's mentally lost or will they show up and say, this is our time. We can take it and go to Miami and do what they need to do.
All right, Bobby Andrade makes a comment here this morning on Santos on Sports, and he says, great show, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
I thought on it this morning and wrote an article on it this morning for the website, and he talks about mental toughness. He says he watched the Heat's post-game show, and wow, they looked laser focused. And by the way, his article is at ezgsports.com, mental toughness. Okay. He's looking at the post-game show and he's thinking to himself, holy crap, these guys look like they're laser focused compared to what the Celtics look like on their post-game show. That's scary.
Well, hey, listen, Paul, it's an elimination game. It's on the line. This season's on the line. I hope they would have been focused, and they were with Jimmy Butler because he led them, and then they fed off of him, and they were getting all pumped up just as much. So he's right. They were focused, and they should have been, knowing it's a game 6 elimination game. Absolutely. And so if they showed it afterwards in the press conference, they were determined to say, hey, we came in here, we did what we needed to do. Now we're going home and defend our turf. Let them try to beat us there. Good for them.
Eddie Kamara comments this morning, I think the Celtics lack quality, veteran leadership, and game changers. The young core is in place, Smart, and these other guys, but Smart, 4-14, I think he said he's looking at his point total here. From the 3-point line, not good. Al Horford, only 3, although Al Horford is a veteran. But what about that veteran leadership? You take a look at, Jimmy Butler. He's a little older now. He's in that age, when Paul Pierce and those guys won later in their career. There is something about experience. That experience where it always comes up in these situations. Teams with experience, they're tough when all the chips are on the table.
First time playing in a playoff game, I'd say absolutely, Paul. Not as much as what the Celtics have played. Playing the Bucks in the series before that.
Right.
They've been in it just enough with experience to know that, hey, we know what's on the line here. We got to get
trips to the Eastern Conference Finals when they were younger, too, and everything.
Yeah, when they played Toronto and some of the other things. So they're there. They're right where they want to be. This is a time for them to show up and shine. And great having Horford maybe to settle some things down, who's got a little bit more of that demeanor compared to being all ramped up and fired up. But Brown and Tatum have been there. Those guys know what this is all about. He's correct in saying the veterans can step up their game. And you have what's in front of you. But I just think being a superstar, playing in all-star games, playing in, Olympics, all these things that they've done, they got tons of experience. They should be able to handle this just as much as easy, being at their age that they're at, compared to being in their 30s and being a legit veteran.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that Chris Santos is not accepting any excuses whatsoever. Nope. Not veteran leadership, nope. Not, they're in my face, not the officials, not Jimmy Butler having this crazy game.
Tatum
no excuses, none, zero.
Tatum and Brown. That game is yours to take over, needed to win it. They didn't do it. Simple as that.
All right, put your tamales on the table in Game 7. All right, so that's the way we're going to do it. I knew it was going to be a fast hour this morning because we had a lot
It
to get
was.
off our chest. We really appreciate those who have called, the regulars, and we did get a newer caller this morning too. We really appreciate
Yes.
people commenting on the different comment sections on the different platforms, the new ones. We had quite a few new ones, so thank you for that. And again, we'd like to thank the sponsor, Scotty's Pub, 202 Pleasant Street, Fall River, Citywide Glass with 3 locations, 425 State Road in Dartmouth, and additional locations in Fall River and Taunton, and Lakeville Athletic Club located at 325 Bedford Street, Lakeville, where you can play tennis and pickleball and a whole lot more. So, Chris, the next time we talk, we may have a Celtics. Not looking ahead. I'm just talking about when we're going to our next show. Now,
Yep.
Hopefully it'll be the Celtics and the Warriors, and we can, go from there. But
Well, if it's next Saturday, Paul,
yes,
then Game 1 would have been played on a Thursday, and they'll be playing Game 2 on the Saturday. So if we get to that, and the Celtics are still in it, that's what we will definitely be talking about, and how that series matches up. If they lose, we'll be talking about what happened to the Celtics, maybe get into some Red Sox, maybe start to early figure out what this team in Foxborough is all about as well, because the schedule's out and we can start, picking the brains of some people, maybe find a special guest here and there. You never know.
You never know. That's always
know.
Floating out there. Special guests are always floating out there. That's for sure. All right. Well, thank you, Chris, and thank you to all of you. And again, thanks to our sponsors, and we hope to talk to you again very soon right here on Santos on Sports. Have a great Memorial Day weekend, and